John here, guys, and today we're talking about the Foxeer Box 2. Now, as we all know, the GoPro Session 5 has become extinct. Yes, you can still find them for now on eBay and Amazon if you look hard enough, but there will come a time where all of this precious natural GoPro resource has been used up. Then what are we left with? Well, there's been a few camera releases as of late that are attempting to address that very issue. So what can we say about the image? The image is actually better than I expected.
What's up, Johnny?
Let's get it going, man.
Yes, sir. You all right?
Yes, sir. All right, I think this is recording.
I typically shoot a lot of my footage at just 1080p 30. I'm not showing anything spectacular in a lot of my footage. You know, I'm not going too far off places. I'm not diving the Grand Canyon or the pyramids. So I want my footage to be easy to edit and still kind of show something interesting, which is the flight itself rather than the scenery, hopefully. And in this case, this camera does, I think, a little bit better for default settings than actually the GoPro. Some people will complain about the field of view. Some people, you know, it is a slightly narrower, I believe, field of view than the GoPro, but that's typical for what we see for most of these cameras. GoPro just has that field of view sensor lens combination nailed down. And I was sent this box too. Now, a few things that I want to note before we get any further. It looks very similar to the size and shape of your GoPro Session, but it is not the same size and shape. You can see it's a little bit bigger. And I didn't realize this at first. I just looked at it and was like, oh, same size, awesome. Went out to a race day to go get some sweet GoPro footage in between the rounds of that awesome track that we had set up. And I couldn't fit this in any of the mounts for any of my racing quads, so I couldn't fly it that day. I even asked everyone that was there that had a Session 5 mount, maybe their mount was a little bit looser than mine, and nobody could fit this.
Wait a minute. This isn't my world. Disappointed!
So I had to print this little case cover to be able to slide this into. Now note that the Foxeer Box has the buttons on the right side. So if you're used to having your GoPro where the buttons are on the top, this is different. This Box 2 does not have any type of screen to be able to indicate what mode it's in or anything like that. It really trusts you to be able to use the app to be able to connect to this and communicate with this device. Comes in this retail packaging right here. It does come with a GoPro style little cage mount like this. So if you had a mount that would fit something like this, it has the same little 3-hold connectors. All of those are still gonna fit. But for our quads, we usually use mounts that are more like this. So this didn't really help me at all for our purposes. It also comes with, you know, the standard little cable with another junk in this little box right here. It comes with a little screwdriver to take these little holes out. This is like one of those special star thingies. So I appreciate that it gets that. I wish that they would have come with a cover that popped off a little easier. You're gonna have to loosen 8 of these little things to be able to swap on a new little screen, but it is nice that they included the tool for you. Comes with a few extra little things, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if this thing is waterproof because the little flap is on the top, right? And I'm not sure if that's a waterproof seal. I don't think I would trust that in the water, guys. It does have an HDMI out. I don't know what you would possibly use that for. And it charges via USB-C. So I'm getting more and more devices that use that. The Session 5 uses it. The little Rode microphone that I'm talking into right now that's clipped to my collar uses USB-C. Micro SD card. I mean, what else are you gonna say? Foxeer's on the back. So if you ever get confused, Foxeer should be right side up in your mount there. The tough part is if you're a racer, I really can't recommend that you get this because of the size. Most racing mounts are made specifically for a TPU printed pod, so you can't really fit this on those, and it's not usable for me. Where I could use it though is in an Armatan Marmot, or really any kind of Armatan or other frames where the action camera sits on a little shelf. Now I can just put this protective sleeve on it and just wrap it over the top. So that's what I use to get some footage of this thing. I have a new Armatan Marmot build using the Ethics motors. So that's coming up very soon. I'm gonna have a review of those motors as well. But in the meantime, let's show you the footage. Now, okay, I can show you a little bit of session 5 footage, but what's the point of going pixel peeping with a camera that's not even gonna exist anymore? So just judge the footage for your own. I will say that the color grade that comes out of this thing stock was, I think it needs a little bit less massaging, at least on a nice day, than the GoPro. The footage is 100% usable. And that's all you really need for one of these. If you want the best footage, you're gonna be rocking the Hero 7. You know, if you're using either one of these cameras, it's because one, you are on a budget, or two, you're flying somewhere that is precarious enough to where you may not want to risk a $400 camera if you have a good chance of either losing it or destroying it. These at closer to $120, $130 are, you know, a much easier pill to swallow should they become lost or destroyed. So I would put these on par with each other. You know, I would say this is 90% as good, but the flaws are the size. Don't know if it's waterproof. I do like the fact that on the GoPro, you can just hit the power button and it starts recording. This doesn't do that. You can go into the menus and set up some auto record feature, but it works by turning on the power button. The first time I tried to record on this thing, it took me about 10 minutes. Now, I guess I could have read the instructions, but how many of us read the instructions? None of us guys. I mean, maybe some people do, but I don't.
I am not a role model. I'm not paid to be a role model.
And so I was out there in the field at the race before I figured out that I couldn't strap it to a quad anyway, just fumbling around with the app, trying to figure out, like, how do I make the damn thing record? It was kind of a pain. But the answer is you go to the app settings, you set it to auto record or whatever, and then you don't push the record button, you push the power button, and as soon as power activates, it starts recording. And you can tell by, it has a light on the front and on the side, similar to a GoPro, how it starts flashing when it's recording. The light is a little bit less bright, so in sunlight, I kind of had to look closely at it to see, like, is this thing actually recording? I didn't really know. I went ahead and flew, hoping that I would have some footage. But that's minor. That's like a setup issue. And if I would have read the directions, that wouldn't have been a big deal anyway. So that's my recommendation. If you need something cheap, can't get your hands on a GoPro, this is a good substitute. Would I choose this over the GoPro for any reason? Probably not. You know, people are going to talk about the field of views being slightly different. I don't think that makes a huge difference. As I mentioned, if you're using either one of these, you're doing it because you're making some compromises because of either price or risk. So, good job on this Foxeer. I appreciate the fact that this is not a clone because of the door being in a different place, because of the button being on the side, because of the size being different. I appreciate because of the buttons working in a different way. I appreciate all those facts that really leads you to know that this is not a clone of the GoPro. But all of those non-clone features are really kind of an annoyance, I do have to say. So I don't wish that they cloned the GoPro, but I kind of do. at least the size. The size would have made life so much easier. In fact, I would almost not recommend it, like I said earlier, if you only do racing quads that use TPU pods, because how the heck are you going to get a pod that fits this thing? You can't unless you are able to design and print your own stuff. So there you go. Thanks, guys.
Two, this is actually the audio from it, and it's a little trickier than your GoPro. There's this like sort of a weird button combination that you have to push in order to get it to start recording. And I don't know why, but I had the hardest time figuring it out the first time I wanted to fly it. So